I mean, would you say you got to where you are because you're smart?
I think smart is such a forward term now. I don't know whether I label myself as smart. When you have knowledge, you have power. And I think understanding neurodiversity and where your kind of traits lie, to be able to make allowances for those and allowing yourself to say, this is how I work, it's not a problem, it's okay. Probably one of the biggest changes in me is when I allowed myself to be who I am, work the way I am, then I worked so much better.
Welcome to In The Mixx, People and Talent, the podcast where we dive into stories, challenges and successes shaping the world of HR and talent. Each episode, we sit down with the people behind the company, HR leaders, talent experts and business innovators to uncover what really drives great teams and thriving workplaces.
So, we have a tradition on the podcast where we type our guest's name into ChatGPT and ask it to give us an overview of that person.
Oh.
Have you ever done it before?
No, I haven't.
It's actually quite interesting. I'll read out what it says about you. Keely is an experienced talent acquisition lead at Personal Group, where she drives recruitment strategy across their insurance, SaaS and employee benefits functions. With over a decade in HR and talent acquisition, she's known for aligning hiring with business growth while championing inclusive recruitment practices through her role on the company's EDI&B, Equality, Diversity, Inclusion and Belonging Committee, bringing a strategic, people-first approach to building high-performing teams and is passionate about creating positive candidate experiences. Outside of work, she enjoys country music, spending time in Cyprus and tending her allotment, adding a grounded personal touch to her professional profile.
Oh, lovely.
I love that. That's been the first one that's actually brought anything personal into it. I didn't know you loved country music.
Oh, yeah, I do love a bit of country.
You've been to Nashville?
I haven't.
It's on the bucket list, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be. It's really good. My other half bought us tickets to go and see Dylan Gossett last year from birthday, and he was like, oh, his birthday. But yeah, I think that's because of our application tracking system has got a little bio thing on it, so it can pull through bits to help
People know who you are.
kind of know who you are and have a bit of like conversational questions to help them ease in. So that's what we do.
Yeah, I'm guessing it draws upon things that you've put on LinkedIn, things through your website, your ATS. It's a bit of everything, isn't it? Yeah. There you go. That's what ChatGPT thinks of you.
I started to get a little bit nervous there. It was a bit of
I thought that was a pretty good overview of that. We say to most guests, should we frame it for you? You can take it home.
No one knows that we do this, by the way. They're all like, oh my God, you didn't tell me that.
Only because we haven't put any episodes out yet. Once we start putting some episodes out, they'll know.
Season 2 now, everyone will be like ready for it.
Switch it up. Just
Putting loads of stuff about themselves on the internet so chat will pause it through.
Yeah, so like pad it out a bit.
So you've had some journey. Tell us how you got to where you are now and why did you choose talent?
Oh, well, I don't know. There's quite a few people that probably have fallen into talent, and I'm one of those people. I feel like, how far back do you want to go? I'll give a really quick whistle stop tour. I started in abuse therapy, damaged my wrists, jumped into financial sales for HSBC, and they got me redundant from there and didn't know where to go. Got headhunted by Aon and then did their frontline HR desk. Moved into agency, went and worked for a company called Walters, which is like a finance recruitment agency, or largely so. And then, ended up kind of going back into in-house HR, and then moved into talent because that's where a lot of my knowledge was. And yeah, my businesses were like, yeah, definitely you should sit here. Loved it more than I did working on some of the HR bits. I don't like dealing with the bad. I had much to deal with just the fun things like hiring people. So
it's really interesting because when you speak to HR professionals, they're like, we stay
keep me away from recruitment.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you called it the fun things, recruitment and people.
It's much better, isn't it? Like you get to be talking to people, chatting with people, meeting new people, learning about them. No day is ever the same because no candidate's ever the same. And then you still get that little fun part of the win when you get to place someone, when you've like done all the hard work and you found the right person. It's exciting.
Do you feel that the fun part is celebrated as much in-house as what it is in your agency days?
Some places, yes. Some places, no. My current place definitely celebrates wins. And yeah, personal group are fantastic with even our CEO is like really on board, just like, you've smashed this. And when she meets the candidate, she's like, yeah, really enjoy like who you brought on. So it's really positive where I am now.
I love that. Do you know that Chris and I, up until about 6 months ago, had always saying we fell into recruitment, didn't we? And they were like, no, we're actually going to own this. Neither of us fell into recruitment. We've earned our stripes. We're like chosen to be here. So I think it's a certain personality type, isn't it, that works really, really well. When you're dealing with people all day long, you've got to have some kind of resilience, haven't you? And passion for what it is you're doing. You don't just wake up feeling like, yes, I'm motivated for today, and people ghost you and things like that, and you're still high on life. You've got to kind of ride the waves of it, haven't you?
100%. And where I fell into recruitment, I have kind of created an actual career out of it. So I'm really thankful that it was literally something I fell into first. It wouldn't have been something I would have necessarily chosen to do, but it's when you actually get into it, it's just a really enjoyable job.
I think we spoke about it. You don't really even know it's a career option when you're leaving school or college, do you? No one really knows about it until, and that's why I think the line of falling into it has kind of come up time and time again. When actually, when you think about it, we've recently been at the REC annual conference, which is the governing body of the recruitment industry, and we talk about actually trying to professionalise the industry, and rather than people understanding themselves saying, oh, I fell into recruitment, we're actually owning it. And kind of,
I think because the barrier to entry is low and there's no academic kind of path to lead you into it. People just use that line, don't they? I fell into it. But actually, where is it? It's in Ireland. They have an established...
a degree.
Yeah,
degree. In Ireland. Around recruitment.
I have seen that there's more coming this way as well, with a lot of like ability to go into different courses.
Apprenticeships and things like that.
But I do also think that you don't get told enough at school about different pathways. You just get your standardised ones, don't you?
I feel like we get onto this topic a lot on the show, don't we?
Yeah. Well, we actually spoke off air in regards to your own personal journey, and obviously being a neurodiverse individual. And it's clear that your past experience have kind of fueled your passion for EDI. You know, how have them moments shaped your outlook on wanting to be better and do better in the workplace for yourself and also for others?
Yes, in my childhood, I'm diagnosed dyslexic and was diagnosed when I was young in school, and my school and a career just was kind of muddling through, learning about myself, learning how I work, and it just wasn't the best of backgrounds. Like school was not a fun place for me, and I think that's definitely shaped who I am, because I was told when I was in school, my parents were told while I was sitting in front of them that she'll never have a really good job, you know, she'll probably just be working in a supermarket. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that was their limitations for me, and that, you know, I wouldn't do very well at all. And I was really lucky that my mum taught me that, you know, how to deal with bullies and not listening to people, and my dad was my absolute cheerleader, who was like, you can put anything you put your mind to, you can absolutely do this, and you don't listen to people and you prove them wrong. And that has been my mantra for the whole of my life, is that if you say I can't do something, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it well, and I'm going to prove you wrong. And so when I've taken my career, I have always focused on making sure that things are fair for different people, and that's not just for neurodiverse people, that's across the board, because there's so many barriers, especially in recruitment, around unconscious bias within businesses, and something that a lot of people need to kind of change and improve. And it's just been at the heart of everything I do. I just think that you don't have to have a degree, you don't have to have been excelled in academics at school or even outside of later life. Like, qualified by your experiences is sometimes better than having those types of qualifications. And so I've become an advocate for making sure that when I'm taking briefs from people or I'm working with senior leaderships, to make sure that we're shaping roles within the business, it's giving them that alternative thought of how can we make this more inclusive.
Challenging status quo, isn't it? I think a lot of people, you got two types of people. There's the people that lean into ED&I and that back it, and they're okay with being uncomfortable and thinking outside the box, and then you've got people that moan about the people that back
Yeah.
ED&I because they're scared and because they don't want to lean in, they don't know where to start, they're afraid of something again. It's horrifying that the amount of people that still recruit in the same way they would have recruited 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And the traditionalists out there that think it's still okay to say, I want X to look like Y,
Yeah.
to come from this place. There's a lot that we do behind the scenes, isn't there, to try and take away to a degree the unconscious bias, but you'll never fully remove it. Even AI to a degree is built,
Yeah, because it's been built by humans. So it's going to have
predominantly male humans of a certain age and background. So to a degree, that's also got unconscious bias and will happen. There's 2 placements. Chris reminds me of this quite often. 2 incredible placements that our team have made recently, both in which the client has said to us, I wasn't going to go for that person.
Or
I
names.
didn't even want to see them on paper.
Yeah.
When you sent over the CV, but we block in the interviews with our clients. It's probably very few and far between, and it's normally new relationships where clients say, no, this is our way of doing it, work this way, and we're like, okay, we'll do it, but then we want to show you our way of working. The funniest one was a client that we're a year into a relationship with now, and he was like, I honestly wasn't buying it. When you said to me that's the way that you work, I was like, oh my God, giving someone my diary to manage for me, this is ridiculous, it's insane. And he wrote the most glowing reference, didn't he? And like, never has recruitment ever been so easy.
Yeah.
And I think it's taken away that
Yeah. And I think
perception.
we should be making those changes because there is becoming more and more neurodiverse people in the world, and we need to think out of the box of how we can include those people. But that's another reason why we do what we do at Personal Group and how we recruit is that we work very similar to an agency. Is we will meet all of the candidates before they go to a hiring manager, so that we can kind of make sure that they're right for the role and the hiring manager's not having a lot of time taking out their diary, but also to really delve in a kind of best practice way of making sure that people are getting in front of the right people. So we're looking at the CVs first, and we're making sure that we're speaking to them, and if they have got any form of neurodiversity, different backgrounds, then we can make sure that the hiring manager isn't discounting those, and we can have the conversations beforehand so that they end up with a better and fairer process.
A lot of it is rewiring your brain, isn't it? Because if I think back to my corporate days and how I was trained, it was, if someone doesn't look you in the whites of the eyes in their interview or their pre-interview preparation, that's probably not deemed to be a good candidate, and actually they're not going to get through the net. Whereas now, someone that's neurodiverse isn't going to want to look at you in the eyes. They're going to find that really uncomfortable. And so this is where it's not till we started to dig into it sort of somewhat 2 years ago. And also, not every woman is going to go and shake a male's hand, depending on their background. And, so it's so much more than just, it's everything. If you're going to recruit someone into a sales team, and it's a very noisy environment, you need the right individual for that, because some people can be super overstimulated from that Wolf of Wall Street setup where it's, lots of bell ringing and like people shouting and hurrahing. Even sometimes in here, I'm like, I just need to take 5. Literally, my brain's overstimulated right now. I'm going to go and work out the back for a little while.
Yeah, 100% agree. And also with sales as well, we recruit a lot of sales people because of what we do at Personal Group. But it's making sure that managers are also aware that it doesn't have to be that high energy, in your face type of person that's that extrovert. Introverted, quiet people can be just as good as selling, and if not, be some of the best sellers as well. There isn't always a trick to this. So it's making sure that you're asking the right questions to get the right things out of people. So yeah, definitely.
It's perception.
Yeah,
It's definitely perception. Sorry to interject. Just to go back a little bit. So when you was at school, was you already diagnosed at this point, and the school just didn't have the capabilities or the knowledge to know how to get the best out of you? Because we won't go into the story you told us off air, but obviously there was points in your upbringing, education, that you obviously felt misunderstood, maybe alienated a little bit. And kind of pushed into a corner and kind of pigeonholed, I guess, into what they thought the future held for you. So was you already diagnosed at this point, but they just didn't have the knowledge, or?
I had a lot before I was diagnosed, and then I was diagnosed kind of like I said, middle school age, but nothing changed. It was just this is fact, and this won't happen. And I think they gave me some extra lessons at school, so I had to come out of a class for half an hour to have extra lessons, once or twice a week, and a woman focused on my handwriting because I write differently to most people. So I've never ever had anything that has to do with my dyslexia at all. But it was the 90s. It just wasn't understood at all, and yeah, unfortunately,
I still don't think it's hugely changed. There are unless you really stand out to the eye, and you are visibly struggling.
Yeah.
It's not really a thing. There are Senko teams and things like that, but yeah, I think it starts from there. We can certainly do better. I think it's 3 in every classroom of children. In a state school, there's 30 children. Every 3 children are going to have a different brain.
And that might be kind of what their stats are from people that they picked up on. And there's probably the high functioning people that find out later in life and they have issues as well. And so there's those figures are definitely higher, I think.
Yeah, and it's the masking as well. It's exhausting, isn't it? For someone like you probably were masking it really, really well at school. And probably still do to this day, but it's good that you start to understand that, and you have such an imprint in the type of role that you've chosen to be in.
Yeah.
I think about I don't know if you ever heard the story about the bottle of water and the value it holds in its location. So, for example, if you go to Aldi, you can pick up a bottle of water for 20p.
Yeah.
If you can go to an airport, it's probably going to be £5. If you go to a service, it's going to be £4. And it's about that environment is the perceived value of the person. I think it's very similar with humans, is that actually you can go to some places that is not the right culture for you and be perceived that actually you're no good or whatever. But then when you find that place that is the right environment with the right culture, the right working hours, the right hybrid model, the right, whatever it might be that suits you, and then all of a sudden you just, go through the roof.
Yeah, and I found that throughout my career. There's definitely been places where I just haven't suited the management styles or their perception of what good is. And they've seen how I performed in other companies and like that. But when it comes into it, their ability to control how I work has become more of an issue than me allowing me just to get on with the job. Mm-hmm. And I'm so thankful for where I am now. And it's really allowed my kind of career to really thrive, because of the way they just let me get on with it, because they know that I can turn it around and they have no issues about how I work or what I'm doing.
It's just like a results driven as opposed to what are you doing every day?
Yeah, absolutely results driven. And then because they've seen the results, they are so passionate about helping me along with my journey. It's been
that. Communication is a big one, isn't it? Because I think it's not one size fits all, and there are companies that have really good comms structures and they may verbalise and do town halls and things, but actually not everyone learns that way. They'll probably go away and think, God, I've just retained 1% of that. There's other companies that just mass email, big comms from the top down, and reading that as a thing called chunking, isn't there? So when Chris and I prepped for this today, it's really interesting because Chris will have a paragraph for his intro from ChatGPT. If I was doing that intro, I'd have to chunk mine, and I'd literally have to have it in bullet points. I could never sit there and read that on.
I sound like a robot and a trip and stutter. And
that doesn't bother Chris. He can read that perfectly. Whereas I'm like, I read the top line and I'm already at the bottom line because I'm thinking, flipping, I need to get to the bottom. Let's get there and then let's work our way up. And then that's how I end up missing things half the time with my email. So I'm like, guys, if you need me for anything urgently, don't email. Just come over to my desk.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just so interesting.
I much prefer a conversation, but then I also like an email to flag it, so I've got something to remember it by.
Yeah.
Let's think about the future. Your where you're at now in your career, and what does the future look like in terms of like EDI strategy and things that you can implement that are gonna help move the dial forward.
Yes, I mean, I think a lot of companies forget about the basics. You have a lot of companies that have this strive to be different and they want to have all of these kind of titles and the disability confident, and they want to kind of be looking to be impressive and different to the rest of recruitment, which is lovely. But if you come into that company, it doesn't always resonate, and you see that within a lot of companies. So where I am at Personal Group is that we need to make sure that we are consistently hitting the basics, and then we can strive for kind of the additional extras. But things around, like I mentioned before, is making sure that our recruitment teams are doing the best by our candidates and making sure that we're giving absolute fair kind of initial screening calls with them and giving real good feedback to the managers. And, you know, where those adjustments need to be made, we can make those adjustments so they're completely getting a fair process. And that's through all kind of inclusivity, diversities and things like that. And it's making sure that we are reminding managers about unconscious bias, because it's everywhere. No one's perfect. Even I have moments of quick thoughts, and I have to check myself, and I'm like, well, actually, what about that person's background? What's this? What's that? And then you kind of have to review it through a different lens. And that's what unconscious bias is. No one can be perfect at all. And then it's just keeping those reminders with managers and ones that you haven't had the time with, making sure that you're taking time just to give a few of those reminders, making sure they're having regular training. It's something that we're looking at the moment, is how we can roll out training that works with our managers, because we understand that they don't always recruit, but you don't also have the time to just whack in a day trading when they're probably needing to recruit. So it's looking at how we can manage on managers' time efficiently, but making sure that we can keep them refreshed on some of those really important things.
It's so interesting hearing you say, I know this anyway, but you bringing it to life about the unconscious bias piece. Anyone that would sit in front of you and say, I don't have an unconscious bias, I don't do that, I don't judge. Everyone does. And I'll give you one example. Chris and I just got back from Bulgaria, and we'd be sitting, and everyone does it. I wonder what's the situation over there? What is that? Mum, dad, brother, sister, like trying to scope out what people's setups are, who they're holidaying with. You know, is this one going out with that one? Are they married? Like, you do it, don't you? Even if it's in an unintentionally like horrible way, like you don't mean bad by it, but you all do it. Everyone does it, don't they?
Everyone does it. And I think the biggest thing as well is around statistics. When you're hearing things in the news, you know things to be quite factual for certain people. And that's where some of those get really dangerous when it comes into recruitment. So it's kind of like stepping back and having to take yourself away from some of those.
I think if you can take the attitude is you can't change everything all together at once, because it wouldn't be sustainable, and also to not be scared to lean into it. When we get it wrong, like we're not going to get it right 100% of the time, and it takes time, doesn't it? And there's certain pockets that you have to dive into to make a slow kind of gradual progress, if that makes sense.
I think as well the biggest thing is letting managers know that it's okay to have those thoughts, but it's making sure recognizing you're having those thoughts, right, that you can kind of think outside the box, because that's the way human brains work. We identify danger out of statistics and probability, so it works across everything we look at, not just kind of recruitment. It's just the way we live our lives. So you have to just be really conscious that that's the way we work. And have to make kind of allowances.
I feel like people just bury their head in the sand because they're too scared to speak up and then be embarrassed or highlighted for their lack of knowledge or credibility in certain areas and stuff like that. But actually, if we were a bit more curious and a bit more open and asked the right questions, I feel like everyone could benefit so much from it.
100%. And that's the way I kind of like to have conversations with managers here is, and sometimes going in with like my own experiences and just be like, this is normal. You just have to be aware of it. And you'll find that managers will now talk things through with you and like, I've looked at this, what do you think? Because I don't know whether this is because I'm leaning into this certain way of thinking because of X, Y, and Z. So you'll find more managers tend to kind of chat it through a little bit more.
So if you had anyone listening now that is either a line manager, maybe in their earlier stages in HR or talent, and they work for an organisation that feel passionate and want to lean into this and make some changes, there's no right or wrong to this, by the way, but where would you advise them to start? Are there any particular websites, podcasts, books that you've read, any particular places that you would make a small start just to kind of put one foot in front of the other?
There's lots of things that you can find online, but there is really good companies as well that you can find that can help you analyse what you're doing in your current recruitment practices.
It's a bit of a like forensic approach to...
Yeah, and then they can help you kind of set the basics out if you really don't know where to start. But I do think any of the standard kind of HR websites, you've got the CIPD and things like that, you can look at where you can start and where you start to analyse and make changes. But I would definitely say don't shoot for the stars. 100% go for the basics first. Make sure that you've embedded them properly, because we can all do quick turnarounds, but you won't see the change for a little while. It does take a while for things to embed, so don't run before you can walk. There's lots of tools you can use as well that kind of link in with the application tracking systems now that you have. So we have like an on my CVs, which gives them really fun names attached to them. So I know who they're talking about and I can see everything in the back end, but the managers can't see anything. So it's really...
Oh, I like that.
That's pretty cool.
I bet the line managers have taken some time to adjust.
I mean, I think sometimes...
They don't ever get on and call them the wrong name though, do they?
No. Well, I don't think they'd ever call it. So there's things like sky blue puffin and like it's like a colour in an animal on all one. So
Love that. That's very cool. But I can feel a future panel guest coming up, because we're really passionate, aren't we, about doing one of our next In The Mixx events focused around ED&I. We've had so much... we do lots of like feedback. How are people finding our events? And you've been along to a few of them. We've also co-hosted one with Personal Group. But yeah, we're really, really keen to do one on ED&I, because it just seems to be a hot topic that everyone is wanting us to do one on.
yeah.
But to have people bring it to life in like just an ordinary way, like there's no shoot for the moon. Like you said, here are some bite size, and people can take away actionables and kind of take it back into their business.
And we're really lucky because we've also had a new Chief People Officer join us, with Jenny Hind, and she is amazing. She's come from the company, which is all about kind of ED&I and how to kind of make changes and shape that for the future. So she's now working with us, which is just a fantastic tool to also have that backing of making really positive change, getting the basics right. And she would probably be someone that would love to come along if you want to do a penny soon as well.
I think that you can definitely feel it when it's ringing true from the top. Kind of trickles down, doesn't it?
It makes such a difference.
You can have the people, the people within the business could be really passionate about it, but actually if they're not screaming it from the rooftop and living and breathing it, you almost feel like a bit of a fraud, right? And then you can't implement the stuff you want to implement as well.
Yeah, and I think, again, I've touched on it, but a lot of companies have this tick box exercise for EDI. It's like, we need to be seen to be doing something. Can you put a job on these job boards, which isn't... I mean, I'm neurodiverse, and I don't go to a neurodiverse job board to find a job. So I don't always think that they are lovely if they're getting... You're looking into it and you're making sure that you're getting enough return from those and people are actually using them, and it's lovely. But a lot of the time, those types of things can just be tick box exercises where they just need to be seen to be doing something. And that's where we just really ought to move away from always that.
It's so true. If you're leading with heart and your CPO and, whoever is running the company is doing things like charity work, for example, you can't just be like, right, guys, I'm giving you a day back every year, go and do charity work. It's got to be led from the front, hasn't it? And with passion and heart. So it's really good that you've got the back in there, for sure.
Yeah, and our SLT, like the senior leadership team, a Personal Group, are absolutely fantastic with anything like that. So we put loads of initiatives in around ED&I and kind of like our ESG targets and things like that, and charity work, and it is led from the top, and so they don't do anything by halves here, which is always good.
That's good. What would you say is the biggest misconception around neurodiversity in the workplace?
Neurodiversity in the workplace, I think it depends on the people, but the ones I've come across are that you can't manage your own diary, you need micromanagement. It seems to be kind of one of the biggest things that is a stopper, and it's not the case. It just means that we work differently, and if you don't have the same brain kind of thought path, then it's not always a bad thing.
So would you say, in terms of the day-to-day management of how you would manage your workload in comparison to a neurotypical person is be completely different?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we touched on it earlier, is that one of my places of work, I had a manager that just hated the look of my emails in my inbox. And I was like, don't worry, it looks chaotic, but it's managed chaos. And that just didn't sit very well with her. And she felt the need to organise everything for me, but I have that complete out of sight, out of mind mentality. If I can't see it, it doesn't exist, waste. And it's not without the want to kind of see it or remember to do it. But for me, I need things in my inbox. So then when it changed, things got forgotten, and then that became a problem. And it has to be readdressed, and then you have to have those difficult conversations.
And does that make you want to go the other way? If someone's constantly breathing down your neck, trying to double check everything that you're doing, I guess it kind of probably makes you lack a bit of confidence, start thinking, is it me or...
Oh, definitely. I think we all get imposter syndrome every now and again, but I just have to remind myself that I know how I work, I know I get results, and that I'm in this level of role for a reason. And if a lot of the time, I think people need to remember that, like you've said with the water analogy, if you're not kind of getting anywhere and you're not allowed to do what you do best, and you know what you do works well, and you're not kind of still trying to work through your journey, then you need to up and move.
Do you think, whose responsibility do you think this is, and where do you think the biggest problem occurs? Is it from the neurodiverse person not openly talking about their wants and needs, or is it from a company's perspective of not giving them that from the offset? Do you think the responsibility lays with the company or with the employee, or a bit
I don't think it has any kind of live who should do what. I think it is a bit of both.
It's by case.
I know that in my career, I've been absolutely petrified to even tell people I was dyslexic. Like any form of neurodiversity, people worry about. And I think that causes problems in itself, because then you can't communicate why you're working differently or your thought pass through it. And I think that businesses also have to understand neurodiversity a lot more to be able to support people. And a lot of us, because especially my age group, if you're sitting a millennial, it wasn't picked up and it wasn't as diagnosed as it is now. And you get the more people that are more high functioning. So sometimes you're not working that out until later life. So you're still trying to work through how you're working and what works for you best. And I think that the more supportive the company, the more understanding. And sometimes it's trial and error to find out how you work better. And I've got to say, it's probably only been in the last kind of 4 years that I've really got mine nailed. That I really know what triggers me, what causes me to fall out of and into a bad process and things like that, so then I can kind of pull myself back in and background and function better. But we all know sometimes there is moments where you don't work at your best.
So there are people listening to this podcast today and they are maybe at the very early stage of their diagnosis, or maybe they haven't even got a diagnosis but they feel like their brain works differently. What best piece of advice would you give them in how to deal with that and approach their upline?
I think for me, that made such a big difference was research. Looking into things and looking at what can cause different and trying to align yourself. I think self-diagnosis is something that gets quite a bad connotation these days, but sometimes self-diagnosis, you don't always have to shout about it. I am self-diagnosed in other areas. I don't talk about that, what I believe I am self-diagnosed as, but that really helped me find my alignment to why I was so different. And it helped me then find better practices to help with those issues. And I think so that's a really big starting point, is making sure that you can align with something so you can make positive change, and then having the confidence to be able to talk to your line manager as well. And there is issues within companies, it's not always going to go down well, but if you're somewhere that isn't going to help you, then you're not in the right place to thrive anyway. And sometimes good things happen for a reason, and I think it's fine. You're on that journey, you just need to kind of roll
Find your people and your employer.
And if they're not willing to support you in that journey, you're not in the right place.
Love that.
So I like that. So looking ahead to the future, what do you see the biggest talent disruptor being?
I think we're already seeing it. I think AI, and it's probably you're hearing all the time, and people are scared of it, and then people are embracing it in companies as well. So you're getting into a big mix of things. But I think in talent, it's one of those things where you have to make sure, one, it's going to be follow best practice, and that you're making sure that there's no legal issues around things. But it's also, you're seeing it on the candidate side, the amount of AI written CVs that you're getting now.
Yeah.
It's them making it harder to be able to find the right candidates, because candidates are helping them write their CVs, but also helping them get through interviews, because you can now basically drop a job description into ChatGPT and it will tell you all of the interview questions, and then they just prep very, very well rehearsed answers, and you're not getting the reality now. So I think that's still something that we're working through to find how best practice is going to fit in, and we're going to kind of settle into that a bit more. But you definitely are seeing a lot more change, and sometimes people getting into roles and you're like, okay.
Are you seeing it a lot across the board within the business, or would you say more in your team directly, the use of AI?
So I think our business is looking at how AI can help in a more kind of wider way, but I think that more fear side of things, because we're so regulated within recruitment for employment law purposes, it's how that kind of fits in. And I think there's a lot of people that are really confident about it and like, oh, it's absolutely fine. But I'm definitely one of these people that have erred on the side of caution. I'm open to change. I'm working with our IT and tech teams to make sure that we can have a look at the right types of things to bring it in. But it is something that does make me nervous, and you can see it changing the landscape, and the more it evolves, the more it changes.
I think sometimes it's better to err on the side of caution than to dive straight in and deal with the problems later, right?
Oh, exactly.
I think
risk averse.
no, that's good. In terms of your career then, obviously you've been really open and vulnerable with us today, and we really appreciate that. When you think about your career, your change from school into your early days to where you are now, would you say there's someone in particular that's had a real big influence on your career?
Well, I think there's two people, but not necessarily where you believe them to be. And I think one of them was a teacher in school that made some terrible comments in front of a few people that has been the biggest point of my career, of making me feel like, that started from an early age, like when I was young, made me just feel really insignificant and really, really dumb. And then my parents backing that up with so much positivity and making me believe I can do anything I put my mind to. So there's not been anyone that's in my career that's helped me shape that. It's just been my support network at home. And
Come from good stock. Do you know how uncommon it is this day and age to have two parents in your corner that really want it for you, or that give really sound, solid advice? I appreciate they may bring in a different angle.
Yeah.
But I often think of my parents, and I'm very, very blessed. One's away with the fairies and couldn't boost me any higher into the sky, and the other one's literally got me anchored on the ground, trying to give me every worst case possible scenario and to, like, you know, ready me for whatever's coming. I'm like, there's no problem yet. We don't need to have a solution. Yeah. But it's really nice to hear that there are parents out there. You know, I've done an awful lot of work with the YMCA. We give a lot back, don't we, to the Y? And some of the stories, and a lot of it just starts from role modelling and, you know, children being given the right path and the kind of right track. And you can do the rest, but you just need someone to believe in you and someone to give you that confidence that you may be lacking.
Yeah.
We don't all have it figured out, do we? We figure it out as we go along, and it's okay to make mistakes and to mess up and to fail from time to time. But it's so nice to hear you say that, because we often think, oh, who do I need to think of in my career, like, that's got me to where I am today, that gave me that shot? Then actually you're saying it's come from your parents.
Yep, come from, they're my biggest cheerleaders, and I've fallen at a lot of hurdles. And it's so cliche, because everyone's like, oh, you know, you have to fail to realise how good you are on this, that and the other. But it is true. But it's making sure that life's difficult, and the work career ladder is even more so, especially when you've got neurodiversity behind you, and even being a woman in like trying to reach a good career point is quite difficult. So having them behind me has been fantastic. Personal group, like I said before, it's made the world of difference, and my career has kind of definitely got on a better traction since I've been here. But yeah, they're my reasons why.
Love that. That's really good. One of the things that really sticks out to me is like when you see someone successful, right? You never come across successful people that don't have a story. They're like, oh, how extravagant can we make my past and my story? How much adversity have I hit? But it's the truth. Because if it was worth having, everyone wants greatness. If it was easy, everyone would have it. But it's like pushing through that barrier, isn't it? Breaking down walls, and like you hit the hurdle. As long as you've got someone there to back you.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful I got Chris. He's like, oh, cheese ball united.
Oh, you are the little pal.
No, we are. He lifts me up when I'm down. I lift him up when he's down. Yeah. We're a little duo, aren't we?
Blushing.
So, what do you feel? This is quite an intense question because you're on the spot, being in talent. What is the best piece of career advice that someone's given you that you'd like to pass on?
Again, it's a bit cliche, but really, when you make mistakes, really delve into them and learn by them. I think that we're all human, we'll make them. We've all just been talking about falling at hurdles, but it's really analysing why something happened and how you can make sure that you can turn it into a positive, and how you can make sure that it doesn't happen again, or you've kind of pivoted away from, and make sure you're working into a better process. I think that's, especially from a neurodiversity point of view, it's been trial and error for a very long time. So I think that's my biggest advice to anyone, is just learning from those mistakes and be okay to make them.
I was going to say around the neurodiverse piece, because you obviously stack the evidence, right? Yeah. Where someone tells you you're not good enough or whatever it might be, and then almost when you fail, that is the evidence that confirms that you're not good enough or you can't do that. So is that taking you a long time to get to that point, or is it, like you said, it's been trial and error, or is there a certain point where you think, actually, yeah, I remember that's where it kind of kicked in for you personally? Or
yeah, so I think we all have imposter syndrome, but sometimes, like you said, when you overanalyze everything and you're looking at the facts, it's quite easy for neurodiverse people to be like, oh no, I'm no good, and you can come the way. I think there's a couple of things that really helped me. Is one, again, my parents being like those cheerleaders and picking me up when I've needed them, to be picked up off the floor and be like, you're good at this, you're not stupid. Like, because that's one of my biggest things is from my school days is, and what happened to me is being made to feel stupid. And now I have that feeling that always carries with me that you're not a smart person, you're quite stupid. And that's always been a worry. But you don't get to where you are in your career with being like that. So I have to have those reminders sometimes. And now I'm very good at reminding myself and having that kind of real conversation with myself to be like, this is this is that, and you're not. But
you could do.
If you think about it, I mean, would you say you got to where you are because you're smart?
I think smart has got such a forward turn now, and I think that I'm not stupid, but I don't know whether I label myself as smart. I think.
But you don't have to be the smartest in the room. I think if you're disciplined, if you work hard, if you go the extra mile and you're resilient, you can pick yourself back up, which are all tend to be traits of neurodiverse children into adults, because they say like a neurodiverse child has 20,000 more negative comments towards them by the age of 10 than a neurotypical child. So if you're having that constantly, you've almost built this armor. So like, you don't have to be the smartest, but you just have to be that person that is willing to take the risk, calculated risk, albeit stand out, be resilient, pick yourself back up when other people are ready to give up. And it's that edge that you have over the smartest in the room, or the one that went to uni,
Definitely. And I think as well, and it goes back to, when you have knowledge, you have power. And I think understanding neurodiversity and where your kind of traits lie, to be able to make allowances for those, and allowing yourself to say, this is how I work, it's not a problem, it's okay, is the biggest thing you could in mindset change. Because you're no longer trying to conform to everyone else.
Yeah.
You are allowing yourself to be you, and when you are your most authentic self is when you thrive the most. And that's probably one of the biggest changes in me, is when I allowed myself to be who I am, work the way I am, then I worked so much better. And again, you do have to be in the right setting to do that, but it is a lot down to making sure you have ownership over that as well.
Love that. Final question. If you could change one thing in the talent industry or talent acquisition industry, what would it be?
Psychometric testing. I hate it, and I've removed it at the moment. We are looking at how we can implement or make positive change in the company. So whether that will get brought in, but it will make sure that it will be more inclusive. But for me, psychometric testing is done way too often, and it isolates people. I hate them. I fail all the time. I worked for a company and I did a fixed term contract for them, and I was only due in to do a short term, and they like extended my contract, and they're like, oh, you've got to go through this kind of normal step by steps, but we've obviously already got the job, we just need to have this all bound for like tick off, sign off. And one of them was to do psychometric testing around kind of Excel, maths and verbal reasoning. And they were literally like, we know you're not like that, you're really smart, we know you can use Excel, we've seen you do these things and implement them, but it's just why we've given you the job and extended it out. But essentially, you've absolutely failed the tests so badly. And I was like, well, there's a timer in the corner, and all I kept focusing on was the countdown. And then I just froze and panicked. And I really dislike any form of the kind of psychometric testings, unless they're made more fun and embed things that aren't so standard and help with neurodiversity. But personally, that's just my pet peeve. And you also get non-academic people that hate him as well. It's not just neurodiversity, and then that kind of looks at different backgrounds and different economic backgrounds, people that didn't get good grades at school or didn't get the best of schooling. Like, there's so many things that it impacts. And I think that sometimes we just have to be careful of what type of things we test with candidates. And if I could eradicate it completely, I would.
So it's gone for today, but not forever.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely better things out there now, and I think AI helps that. But I think that landscape's changing quite considerably. And with the AI and the CVs as well, that's another thing that could completely change, whether companies are talking about eradicating CVs and just having some form of testing. But I do think that testing is evolving now, and it's not like the psychometrics we've seen at the moment or have seen before. So I think that I can't say that any form of psychometrics might be embedded in the future, but they definitely won't be your standard verbal reasoning that will be anywhere near my candidates.
They won't be if you're in charge.
Not if I'm in charge, no.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you so much for coming in today and joining us, Keely. It's been a really interesting conversation, and thank you for being so open and vulnerable. If you're still watching, please like, subscribe. In The Mixx, we've got some amazing events coming up. We'll let you know times, dates, etc. Keep an eye on our socials. Just before we wrap up, where can people find you if they have any questions or want to connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is always a good place. So my name's Keely Herring, and you'll be able to find me on there. There's not too many people under my name, so I'm sure I work at personal groups, so you can be able to find me there.
Thanks, Keely.
Amazing. Thank you.